Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be analyzing the state of Michigan and its gubernatorial election in the 2022 midterm elections, which are only 2 weeks away. Before I start, I'd like to say if you like my content, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell, and also leave a like and comment. With that said, let's get into it. So, in the state of Michigan, incumbent Governor Gretchen Whitmer is running against Republican challenger Tudor Dixon, and this election really did seem like it was going to be a blowout for Whitmer for a long time. Going into the election cycle, Michigan was one of the most important states on the governor level because Michigan is a state that voted for Trump in 2016 and then flipped to Biden in 2020. Because Michigan was a toss-up in both of those elections, it was pretty commonly considered to be a toss-up in the 2022 midterms. Michigan is a state that can favor Republicans in a red wave year, but of course Gretchen Whitmer is the incumbent, so she did have the incumbency advantage. So Gretchen Whitmer has been governor in the state of Michigan since 2019, and so she was governor during the 2020 COVID-19, crisis, and she did a lot of stuff with lockdowns and stuff, and she got a lot of criticism for that. And so Republicans thought that they would be able to use that against her, and they had a couple candidates lined up that they thought were going to be able to do well, including a former Detroit police chief, James Craig. So James Craig seemed to be the front runner in this race, but then in July, there was a really big issue with ballot access for Republicans in Michigan, and James Craig, the front runner, was disqualified from the ballot because it looked like he didn't have enough valid signatures for his campaign to actually be valid. And Craig wasn't the only one who was disqualified, but he was clearly the front runner in the race if we look at polling. And so when this happened, Republicans started kind of dooming on this race. It seemed like it was over because they didn't really know who to run, and Gretchen Whitmer was leading all of the other candidates in the polls who were not disqualified in this event. So looking down here, we can see that James Craig was clearly the front runner in primary polling, but then the Board of Elections announced that he was disqualified, and Republican voters didn't really know who to vote for. The undecided shot up to almost 50%. But then as the summer went on, Tudor Dixon surged, and she ended up winning the primary, and now she is the Republican nominee. So now if we look at general election polling between Whitmer and Dixon, for a while it looked like Whitmer was going to win really easily. She was leading by double digits in most polls, and one poll even had her up 37 points. And now obviously that was never going to happen, but it did look like she could win by double digits. And I knew it was going to be closer than a double digit. I had it as lean to likely Democrat for most of the cycle leading up to this point, but I didn't really plan on making a video on Michigan because I didn't think it was competitive enough to warrant a video. But now we see recently that Whitmer has totally lost her lead in the polls. I mean, she's still leading by a little bit, but not nearly as much as she was over the summer and before the primary. In the Real Clear Politics average, she's only leading by 3.2 points now, which is really within the margin of error. And she's under 50% now, which is a huge indicator that she might be able to go down here. If we look at the RCP polling average over time, you can see that in August, she was leading by 17.6. And when I started making videos again in early September, she was probably around +9. And I still had Michigan as lean Democrat because I knew that Dixon was going to do better as the election grew closer and people got more polarized and the undecided started making up their mind. But I didn't expect it to get this close because now Whitmer's only leading by 3.2 and the momentum is clearly in Dixon's favor. And like I said a couple seconds ago, Whitmer was at 53.3% in her highest average before, and now she's only at 48.7%. Meanwhile, Dixon was at, where was she? I can't even see. She was at like 36, 35, and now she's up at 45. So she has closed the gap significantly, and I do think it's possible she wins now. If we look down here at Real Clear Politics poll unskewer, which I do kind of have a problem with their way of unskewing polls because it just averages out the error from the last 3 election cycles, but it does have Dixon leading. And again, take that with a grain of salt, but they also do have Dixon winning in their projection, which is worth noting. And Real Clear Politics isn't the only aggregate to realize that this is happening, because a lot of people are saying that this cycle, Real Clear Politics, is favoring Republicans more than they should, and maybe that's true. We'll just have to see what the results show. But even 538 is showing this race tightening. Over the summer, they had her in the 90s. They had a solid Democrat as recently as 2 weeks ago. Whitmer, at her peak, had a 97% chance of winning, according to 538 model, and just in the last couple weeks, it's gone down to 87%. And as we all know, 538 does overestimate Democrats in almost every race. Right now, they have Whitmer leading by almost 7 points, which is, again, down from where it was before, but that's where they have her now. But it's important to look at the 2020 election forecast. This is in Michigan, and they had Biden at a 95% chance of winning the state of Michigan. If you look at the popular vote tab, they had Biden winning by 8 points, and ultimately Biden did end up winning the state, but he only won the state by less than 3 points. So if you apply 538's 2020 error to their 2022 prediction for the state of Michigan, then Dixon actually wins pretty handily. And I don't think that's a good way of figuring out the error on 538 or any forecast, but it is worth noting in my opinion. Personally, I do still think Whitmer's going to win this. I mean, she's been leading for basically the whole cycle. She has the name recognition, but I do think it's going to be extremely narrow. I think it's probably going to be around 2 points. I might even move Michigan to tilt Democrat. We'll have to see about that. But I do still think she's going to win. Although I do think it's extremely possible for Dixon to win, and a lot more possible than it was even just 2 weeks ago. Again, if we go back to Real Clear Politics for this, Whitmer's only at 48%. Dixon is at 45%, and if the undecideds break for Tudor Dixon, which they probably will because it's a Republican wave midterm, then this race is going to be extremely close, and Dixon could even win. I don't think she's favored right now, but if the polls continue to shift in her favor as the election grows closer, I might have to move it into her column. We'll just have to see. But for now, that's all I really have to say about the Michigan gubernatorial election for this year. If you liked the video, leave a like and subscribe, and comment telling me what you think, and turn on the notification bell so you know when we upload. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.